We go into a new computer art tutorial, and what we're going to be doing today is going over some techniques to layer in filters and use the different types of styles to fonts to make a inspirational quote design. So what you can see I got going on here is a few layers. Background layer just black with an image on the top of that is underneath my text, and an element layer, which is something new we're going to cover in this tutorial. So what I'm going to do to get started is kind of show you. I'm going to toggle back to home so that we could see where we're starting. So when we go to Pixlr.com, we'll choose Pixlr E. I'm going to go to create new. We'll choose photo and start with a landscape 10 by 8 image. And so here I need to start with a text box that is going to contain the quote. So you can either look up an inspirational quote, or you can use a quote from a music lyric or any other source. So I was using a quote that is, "There are things known and things unknown, comma, and in between are the doors." Period. So there's my quote. I will need to give credit to the person who said my quote as well. But first, I'm going to start by just kind of getting this type separated. So I'm going to separate it into lines here. So there are things known will be one. And then I think I want and things unknown on another. And in between are the doors. So I'm going to set this up like this. I'll make this font a little bit larger, or you can stretch the box there too. But I like to kind of just keep the box tightly wrapped around the text. And then we'll see what fonts I'd like to use and maybe what size I'd like to go to. So I'm going to make it bigger than this so that it is kind of filling the space. Actually, what I need to do with my text box is adjust the size so that it actually fits more to the space where I'm trying to make it fit. So a little bit wider, and that seems pretty good. Okay. So I could add quotations actually. That's probably something I should think about doing here, is adding quotations and stretching a little bit further. It doesn't have to be perfectly centered. I was just messing with the placement there. Okay, so my background layer, I do need a background layer that is going to be just black. So I'm going to make my active color black here, take my fill bucket, and just click to make this layer underneath my text black. Now I'll also need to add an image layer. I want to add an image to mess with some filters. So I'm going to go with an image of doors. And let's see if I can find a good image. No, I'm not trying to purchase any doors. I think the image that I had borrowed here was this door image that had a whole bunch of different doors compiled in it. I'm going to copy that image, come back to Pixlr and paste it. When pasting, it's going to put that image on its own layer. It looks like it almost filled my canvas, but I'm going to make it fill all the way. So I am just going to click on my move tool, select tool, and drag this out so it goes all the way outside the edges and fills the entire space. So at this point, I can probably notice it is a little hard to read my text, right? A little hard to read the text. So a couple things I can do is I can go to my image layer and I can turn the opacity down. And so as I turn that opacity down, it's making it darker because the layer underneath it is black. And so I'm going down to about 50%. You may not have to go that low, or maybe you have to go lower. It depends on the image that you're choosing. One other way I can help my text stand out is to add a drop shadow to the text. So if I click on my type tool and my type layer here is selected, I can go to styles and I can turn on shadow, and that just adds a little extra shadow underneath. All right, so I think I was happy with that font. I might have had a different font in mind, but that one actually works pretty well. But scroll through your fonts, see if you find something that fits with the overall feeling, the mood, the emotion that maybe the quote is bringing out. feel like this was the one that I had wanted initially. So that looks good. I do need one more text box actually. Forgot, I do need a text box. So I'll add another text layer. And I need to give credit to who is quoted for saying this. And actually, this is not necessarily the person quoted with saying this quote, but he did say it about his band, The Doors. But I do need to change the color of this font to white so that that also stands out. And I might make this font a little bit smaller. It's not as important as the main text of the quote, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And it should be to the bottom right area of the quote itself. All right, so this is looking pretty cool. The only things I wanted to also introduce here are a few things with filters and elements. So I'm going to add a filter. There are filters here that we could go to in the glitches. Fringe is a fun one. If you want to do something with fringing, you can see it kind of distorts and changes the colors. It makes it pop out a little 3D. There are some in the creative folder here as well. Some that I particularly like are the fisheye, which kind of bends and warps the image. You could also use it, you can have it fill the edges if you want to fill the whole space, and you can have it reflect or repeat the image to fill the empty space as well. The other one I think I was going for is polar coordinates. So what this does is it kind of wraps and turns your image into a sphere. I want it to have symmetry, so it has a better circle going there. And that looks pretty cool. All right, so the last thing I wanted to introduce was elements. So I want to add an element layer. So I'm going to File, Browsing Elements. I'm going to click on the Overlay folder. There's lots of different types of elements in here. A lot of them are premium features, so you have to actually pay for Pixlr Pro in order to use those features. I'm going to choose the bokeh light features that we can add in, and these are all layer styles that we can click and add in to our pictures. A lot of them look like reflecting lights, kind of like city lights, and I kind of like this effect as it kind of reflects something off of this door image, as kind of looks like city lights going on here too. So if I click on one of these, you'll see it adds it in as an element layer, has some transparency I can play with. I'm going to close that and then just stretch this element layer so that it fills my entire space here. And I did want this, it went on the correct layer, it went underneath my text. If it goes over your text, that might still work too, but it might not really work and it might make your text hard to read. So anyways, this is pretty much finished. So I wanted us to try and play with a filter on our background photo, add in an element layer and have some text that has a drop shadow underneath so that it stands out. And that's it. We'll go File, Save, and save this as a JPEG, and we are good to go. So I hope you guys have fun using some of these features of Pixlr to create your own quotation or music lyric image.